Thank you for taking time out with PSOA. Sean Johnson here with Monty Tilsner from the Big Ten Conference, bringing you Great Plains Athletic Conference training tape number 2. Monty, thank you once again for joining us tonight. One of the things that came up in our referee conference call is illegal equipment. What is it at your level of college football? Do you guys do as a crew and you do as an individual to not ignore illegal equipment, but to prevent the egregious illegal equipment?
Yeah, we'll try to look at it, pre-game. But really, what Shaw has put out as well is he just wants the extremely egregious acts. So if those pants are close to the top of the knees, we're good. If it's, mid-thigh or above, then you got to take care of it. But it's not something we really go looking for. But we definitely will try to prevent it beforehand and not wanting to send a player out of the game.
And officials from my supervisor seat, if you see illegal equipment, don't ignore it, address it, talk to the player, talk to the head coach. You want to communicate it, and as Monty said, if it's egregious, take care of it before the game, during the coin toss, and get the egregious acts taken care of. All right, now we're going to get into the plays. Last week, our first 2 plays is going to be sort of a reflection of what was in our weekly bulletin. And the first one is roughing the passer. We want to protect all quarterbacks in the Great Plains Athletic Conference. So, Monty, as we're going through this, of a blocking the pass when the defender jumps high to block a pass, they put themselves in a vulnerable position. What is the threshold of what would be illegal contact versus legal contact on a passer when jumping to block a pass?
Yeah, if you're jumping to block that pass and you don't tip that pass, you come down on his, with forcible contact to the head, it's a foul every single time. Even if you have a little tip of that ball, you still, you just can't not hit the quarterback in the head. It's really that simple.
Yep. And this does not reach the level of targeting um, because it's not that attacking, punishing, but we have to protect our passers. If you're going to block a pass, just keep your hands and arms high and do not bring them down towards the passer's head. The next one here is a blind side block, and the end zone view is going to be a better view. And we're going to sort of talk about responsibilities of umpire and back judge. Who are you watching and how long are you watching them? And then when they get farther down the field, the H, the L, and the R, how we have to get to zone coverage to pick up these blocks later on in the play. So, Monty, first off, just out of this normal set, from an umpire standpoint, back judge standpoint, who's watching who at the beginning of this kick?
Yeah, so remember we're dividing the field, into sections, and our umpire and our back judge, have that well, we're divided into quarters, I should say, and our umpire and back judge have the middle 2 quarters. But if they directionally kick the ball, then all that shifts and compresses. So we do want to hustle in hard to the hash as a back judge and an umpire. So you can see we got a directional kickoff, which most teams do. So everything shifts over. But the so good job of getting in there close to that hash. And we see the action by number 10, I believe it is there.
Yep.
And, you know, as a back judge and umpire, even a deep wing, you're going to follow action further downfield if you don't have other action. But this, the back judge, I believe it's on the right of the screen. Yep, that's the back judge. He's going to be looking at that action there. Knowing that our deep wing is on this one out a little further to the right on the 30 between the numbers and the hash. Yep, he's going to be on that. So, um, actually, the umpire or the wing, the deep wing at the top, at the left of the screen, might be trailing that stuff all the way in there. But really, I think this opens up best to the referee. You should be focused referee from the inside out, middle of the field out on these plays, and this should be it opens up just perfectly to the referee. So it's definitely the best look would be the referee.
And I will say this as a working official, Monty, you probably agree to this as a working official. As a crew, if we break this down on an all 22 video and we take a look at the bills of our caps, I bet you we have one or two officials watching the ball carrier here, and the ball carrier is free of foul. We should
Yep.
not be watching the ball carrier here, be watching the blockers ahead of the ball carrier. Now, the other thing that came up is when in doubt, this is attacking and punishing. They're running full speed, they're extending their hand. That is attacking and punishing. What is it can number 10 do differently here to avoid this foul and still be legal and protect his ball carrier so this player cannot get to number 9?
Yeah, I mean, all he has to do is do anything to slow him up or knock him off balance. So if he has his hands out, extended away from his body, and he then contacts and pushes the guy, again with his hands extended away from his own body, and then he can push this guy all the way to the ground, and we do not have a foul because we we need that, that's in the rule book of hands extended. But when we hit it with the shoulder and then we continue with a forearm and then a arm with that push, that's attacking. So he could also do a fan block and just hands up and go in front and glance on the front of that guy and go in front of him and chip a little bit of him from the front, and that's not going to be a foul either. So
Yep. It's not going to take much going full speed to
no.
get in somebody's way and slow them down. All right, we have a free kick here, and it's going to be a short free kick, a pooch mechanic. And the discussion here is sort of that feel of when will the side judge and field judge take it versus the H and L, and what's going to be the best way to get an accurate spot of where this ball is caught. So I'm going to fast forward it here a little bit.
Yeah, and it's just a tough one. There's no real yard line for the field judge and side judge to take it. It's a little bit of feel, how close are you to where that ball goes out of bounds or is caught this guy drifts out of bounds. And how far is the or the short wing? How hard is the short wing coming up? If you're the same distance and he's coming hard, it's his spot to let him have it. But if he's, still at the 10-yard line and, we need to, right now, we need to turn and get downfield a little further. As a side judge, I would like you to be just past the 50. And now you're only about 10, 12 yards away. So if your short wing is not got his burners going on, then just go take the spot. It's really just a feel thing. There's not necessarily yardage. Just kind of look at it and decide, if it's okay for you to take it or if you let him have it.
And I think you said earlier, once these kickers get by you as a side judge, field judge, you want to be sprinting downfield with them as well on a short kick. All right,
Yeah,
so
we should get, ideally we want to get 10 yards and stopped. When we see a pooch like this, we're probably not going to go full 10, but we'd probably want to get to that 50.
yeah.
And then remember, anybody who sees this guy signal fair catch, just, if you know his number, great. If you don't, just say fair catch signal, fair catch signal. It doesn't matter who it is because we know if anybody signals fair catch, that when this guy fields it, it's going to be dead.
All right, going on to the next play. Back judge mechanics on a punt. So Monty, ideally, where do you want back judges to set up? And then where should they move to when this catch is actually taking place?
Yeah, so the initial positioning of this, if you freeze it right when he gets into there, is good because he's just off the inside shoulder. This guy's already taken maybe a step or two. So his initial positioning is good. He's about 7 yards back and just off the inside shoulder. The problem is we don't do a very good job of picking up the depth and direction. So we end up not retreating back enough. And we end up only about a yard or two behind this guy when he actually catches this. And we also would want to be over. We don't want to come outside the hash, but ideally we're right where that X is. So about 6 yards behind him. And we don't want to come outside the hash. We want to have the width. So the width is good. And I did talk about that. Hey, I'd rather have you too wide um, and have that angle than be, deep and be straight lined. But we need to do a better job of noticing that. And deep wings, you can help. If you see this booming kick, I've done this in a game multiple times. Get on the 0-2-0, deep kick, and that just lets all of us three know, hey, we better get back because this is a really good kick.
And then you were talking about the hips of the back judge.
Yeah, thanks. So they are really, really strong with us on they do not want us opening our hips to the return man. They want our hips to be straight up field, even on this one. So if we were positioned where the X is, they would want our hips to be dead straight up field. And the reason is if we close off our hips and open them up to the returner who's to the side of us, we also are now losing a lot of the vision to be able to see blocks because as soon as he possesses this ball long enough that it's would be a fumble if he would lose it, then we've got blocks and we're closing ourselves off to blocks if we open up our hips to the return man. So try to leave your hips upfield.
All
Right
right, so
now, we're not doing anything but trying to get out of the way.
yep. And right now, this is where the kick has ended. So our spotting of the ball as a back judge, it's not there. We need to be able to transition to blockers ahead of the ball carrier. All right, forward backwards pass. So this is one of our plays that went to review this past week. And initially, after taking a look at this play, we're going to talk about philosophy of backwards pass of what we want the philosophy to be of the ruling on the field before going to replay. So, Monty, just going through this play by philosophy, what would you have and why?
Yeah, just remember if you have any doubt in your mind at all, make it forward and incomplete. We can go to review, and if there's enough to overturn it, well, then it's obvious. But if there's not enough to overturn it, then we probably should have ruled, forward and incomplete on the field. So, if we rule as forward and incomplete, there's just not an angle that's going to make it, irresputable that we're going to be able to reverse this. It's going to be upheld no matter what we rule. So then we want to fall back on our philosophy of when we have doubt, we want to make it forward and an incomplete pass.
Yeah, so this could have been a play, whether we ruled it forward or backwards. Either coach could have reviewed it. When we go into review, we would rather go into review with the appropriate philosophy. And in this case, when in doubt, we're calling it a forward pass, no cheap turnovers.
Yep.
All right, late hit conversation. This play had a lot of discussion with graders, with myself, and then even with us before this training tape. And again, we're talking about what is the threshold. This is a quarterback going to the sideline. And not only is it a foul, what could the defender have done differently to avoid this foul?
Yeah, so first of all, I mean, we just need our defense to understand that we're going to protect the quarterbacks. So if we're on the edge of out of bounds and you punish the quarterback, it's probably going to be a foul. And same thing with roughing the passer. If you try to punish him by throwing him to the ground or pushing him to the ground, it's probably going to be a foul. So, he might start out with a little bit of contact, maybe starts out with some contact in the field of play. Maybe that's even debatable. But this extension with and this push is 100% in the white, and we should call that we should make that a foul every time. And if we understand that, and officials understand that, and the coaches understand that, and they start coaching their kids the right way, then we're not going to have these fouls because both teams want to have their quarterback in that game the whole time. And this is the kind of stuff where we end up losing kids.
Yep. So players, you can make minimal contact to make sure this ball carrier goes out of bounds. And especially with this being a quarterback, it's that second act shove to the ground. We got to protect all players, quarterbacks, to make sure we're not getting injured out of bounds, out of play. Uh, Another late hit out of bounds. This is where a
Yeah, hey,
second
going back to
player.
that last one, you don't have to go back, but if we just if that first contact inbounds is a wrap up tackle, and then we just continue and that tackle ends up wrapping up out of bounds, we're fine. We don't have a second act. The problem is with the second act of this push. That's what we don't need. I mean, you tackle guys by wrapping them up. That's how you're taught to tackle. If you do that, you're much less likely to get a foul called on you, especially on a quarterback.
So this next clip is another late hit out of bounds, and this is a reminder to players: if your teammate has an opponent wrapped up at the sideline, driving them out of bounds, stay out of it. Don't get involved, because as this second player comes in and finishes them, that's going to be a late hit every single time. And I really, Monty, talk about the dead ball officiating and the sense of urgency here on this play.
Yeah, this is really a good job by this crew. Multiple players, I think four players of the crew get over there. This could have escalated and become really, really bad, and they did a very good job of really getting over there hard and cleaning that up because it's definitely the second player who came in that caused the foul. If he didn't do that and they go down to the ground out of bounds, well, the contact started in bounds, we would have been fine. But again, it was the second player who came in or a second act that caused it. But the crew did a good job of getting this, team out of the bench area and not having anything extra stir up. So nice job.
Yep, good dead ball officiating. Our next play here is going to be talking about open field takedown, talking about blocking into the football, and then post scrimmage kick enforcement. So we're going to go to the end zone view, talking about what can Team A versus Team B do when it comes to this point of the play, and where Team A, the kickers, is trying to get to the field, and Team B is trying to block and prevent their opponent to get to the kicker.
Yeah, let's start out with the back judge positioning and your arrow there. Your feet should be right where that arrow head is. Again, we want to be just off the inside shoulder if we have one returner and about 6, 7 yards behind him. And then basically we go opposite of him, or if he goes to the right, we just have to step up. But we do want to improve our positioning on this play. Good call by the umpire here. So remember, team um, team A, they can throw a team B player down to the ground to try to release and get to the ball. That's what this is really interesting. It starts out with team A trying to get rid of team B. He's trying to throw him down right there and release downfield. That's 100% legal. That's good. But what happens is this team B player decides, nope, if I'm going down, I'm taking you down. And he grabs him and pulls him down. And that's a foul. And picked up by our umpire, which it has to be. No one else is going to see that. So good job by the umpire. We need to see those, second, third wave guys in the middle. And then this is real interesting. We haven't seen this yet this year, but a good example of somebody trying to force a player into touching the ball. These two players from the sideline view, I thought they were engaged. They're not. This uh, this B player is trying to slow down and stop to not get close to the ball, and then the A player is just trying to drive him and force him into touching the ball. And remember, the saying is force touching is no touching. So if he would have forced him into the ball, that would be not considered touching of the ball by that receiving team player, and therefore we would not have a ball that's loose and available for either team to recover. Also, if a you can't force the ball into a player. So let's say he's getting pushed and forced towards the ball, and then another player would try to hit the ball towards him. Well, one, that would be illegal touching, but also that's not forced touch. That'd be forced touching as well, which is considered no touching. So interesting play.
Very good. Our next play, talk about we have two potential defensive hold and sort of talking about the belt for the H and L to officiate the belt when receivers and keys are not threatened. And then sort of when does that defensive hold restriction, because it's legal to block up to a certain point, but then once they get to the same yard line or once they get beyond, that defender now has to let go. So there's going to be two defensive holds on this play, talking about who should be where and what is the threshold of when the defense has to let go.
Yeah, so this is a good one. The back judge actually has a D hold later on this play, but right here, the one we have circled, I'm sorry, go back, Sean, my bad.
Yep.
Um, this first one here, this guy's in the belt, and the wing at the bottom of the screen, your guy stayed in the block. When he stays in the block, you should shift your focus to the belt. Is there anybody coming parallel in the belt? If so, you should be on that action. The top of the screen, that's your guy going into the belt. So he's going away from you, but you should be on. So really, we should have two sets of eyes on that guy. And he's probably getting held there. Looks like there's a restriction, a shoulder dip there. The one that gets called is going to happen right about the 30-yard line here in just a second, right there. This is a very easy, um, oh, well, it's easy, but a good call for a defensive hold. I mean, he basically grabs him and pulls him down the ground. That's what our back judge threw on. And that's exactly where he should be looking and what he should see. So really good job by the back judge there. You can see he throws his flag right in the direction of where the foul occurred, which is also a good thing to do. We know that's not going to be a spot foul, but kind of lets everybody know, hey, he didn't throw it against on that one going to his left. He threw it on the one that was to his right in the seam there. So good job. He's killing the clock, and then we'll get on the 0-2-0. So nice work, but really talk about you know, who's going to see those guys in the belt because our short wings need to pick up receivers who are running flat routes, in that 5-yard belt.
All right, this takes us to quote unquote question mark offsetting fouls. We definitely have a chop block by the back in the backfield going low while a lineman is engaged high. And then we wanted a follow up of showing a legal contact by a defensive player prior to a pass. So as we play this out, again, it's going to
Yep.
be number 26 is going to be the chop block low. So personal foul offense. And then there's also going to be contact by a defensive back on a wide receiver. So this is the chop block first, high
Yeah, and we talked
low.
about this. Referees, you're responsible for those backs when they go to block. So really good pickup by our referee here. It's one that we got to get, and we do get a call on it. So nice job there. And then at about the 2-yard line, you can see we get a little bit of a chuck on this receiver. Um, and what was called was defensive holding. Well, he didn't hold him. Remember, you cannot have defensive holding unless they actually hold them and restrict them. This could be a blindside block, but it's not forcible enough to be a blindside block. So this is just a little bit of a chuck that is nothing. Even though the guy goes down the ground, that's not a foul by that defensive player. Now, if he would forcibly contact him like that kickoff, then we would have a blindside block on the defense against a receiver, and that is a foul that you can have. In fact, I've had it twice in my career where I've had a defensive back who has had an illegal blindside block against a receiver, and as long as it's forceful and attacking, it is a foul. So that this one is just there's nothing there. It does not fit into a category for a foul on that defender.
And then we're going to conclude this training tape on catch no catch. We know we've been taught, we've been gone over many a times of it's a three-step process. It's possession, it's a body part in bounds or 1 foot, and then a common act to the game when it's an upright receiver. So when we talk about common act of the game, what are you looking for, Monty, for that third step process to turn this defenseless player as a receiver into a ball carrier and a completed catch?
Yeah, and it's really hard. You can't really say, hey, the number of steps or something like that. They have given us very clear direction of if a receiver like reaches the ball out towards the first down marker or towards the goal line, that would be a second act common of the game, which would mean we would have a catch. But other than that, just tucking the ball is definitely not one. Um, so this this is just too tight in my opinion that I think we got to go incomplete on this. Um, I know we have two beanbags down, so we did have judgment of both officials thinking it was a catch, and I can see where they could get to that, but just remember when we're like, oh, I can see how you can make it a catch, that's not enough. Then just make it incomplete. And then
And,
if we go to review and it's clear and obvious, he made a definite second act. There's that element of time in there, and I just don't think that in full speed that we have that element of time to make this a catch and a football move.
and it just so happens we get into review, and this is the angle that we get. The upright is right in the perfect
Of
spot
course.
to give us a great look of the most important part of the play. And this is the importance to remember officials without having a replay booth official. Our philosophies have to revert back to the philosophies of we don't have replay. We have review, but we don't have replay. So when in doubt, wipe this out, incomplete pass. Have those receivers make a clear act of the game for us to consider the process of the catch complete. So thank you, Monty, once again for joining us for week 2 training tape. We will be back here again next week reviewing plays from week 3 in the Great Plains Athletic Conference. And good luck on your travels to Rutgers University this week. And any going away words of encouragement or goal setting for this week for the staff.
I think with a couple things that popped up this week, I think we just need better communication, amongst the crew so we don't end up having files that don't get reported or, just communication that's lacking had caused some problems this week. So,
All right. Thank you again. Officials, remember, you're only as good as your last call.